On the morning of November 24th, 1974, expedition leader Donald Johanson sat in his work tent, intent on catching up with paperwork. The previous day, Mary Leakey and her son Richard had flown in on their Cessna to visit Johansen and tour the Hadar dig sites. As Johansen grabbed a cup of coffee in the mess tent, his assistant Tom Gray urged him to ditch the desk and go fossil hunting instead. Persuaded by Gray's enthusiasm, the duo set off into the field. Johansen and Gray, along with a couple of geologists, headed out in the Land Rovers. From Arizona State University, after a long hot morning of mapping and surveying for fossils, they decided to head back to the vehicles. Johansen suggested taking an alternate route back to the Land Rovers through a nearby gully. Continuing, within moments he spotted a right proximal ulna and quickly identified it as hominid. He saw an occipital bone, then a femur, some ribs, a pelvis, and a lower jaw. Continuing, 2 weeks later, after many hours of excavation, screening, and sorting, several hundred fragments of bone had been recovered, 47 of which formed a small fossil skeleton representing 40% of a hominid skeleton. The discovery garnered massive international media attention. In a recent interview commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Lucy discovery, Johansen shared the story of that pivotal day with New York Times science writer Carl Zimmer. Quote, "My graduate student Tom Gray and I looked around. There were shards of a skull. There was a piece of a jaw with some teeth in it." End quote. Quote, "There were some rib fragments, and if I hadn't looked over my right shoulder, I would have missed her." End quote. Humanorigins.si.edu. Lucy, a 3.2 million year old Australopithecus afarensis, was the most complete hominid skeleton discovered at the time, with over 40% of her bones recovered. From the book Fossil Men, 2022, page 41. She was the oldest skeleton ever found in the human family. 3 million years. The team later recovered 40% of her bones. The following year, the team returned to Hadar and unearthed the remains of 13 Australopithecus afarensis individuals, collectively nicknamed the First Family. Celebration. Johansen, quote, "We were celebrating. Everyone was blown out of their minds. Some students had snuck in some beer," end quote. During the celebrating, quote, "Actually, my girlfriend on the expedition, Pam Alderman, said, 'You think it's a female. You said it's a female. Why do you think that?' End quote. Johansen explains to Zimmer that from the dentition and the length of the femur bones, he knew it was an adult. Johansen, quote, "So she said it's an adult female," end quote. Quote, "And we were listening to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Lucy in the Sky was playing," end quote. And she said, quote, "Why don't you call her Lucy?" End quote. Johansen role plays a harumph. Quote, "Well, I just received my PhD. I should have some complicated name, but it was too late." End quote. Partied till the break of dawn. Johansen told Zimmer that by breakfast the next morning, the name had already stuck. The rest of the crew was calling her Lucy. Mystery Girlfriend. Pam Alderman's name has been bandied about before in print accounts of the Discovery Day. But this is the first time that Johansen has given specific details naming Alderman as the one who inspired the naming of Lucy. For instance, at the ASU site, Johansen shared only vague details about the party and explicitly stated that no one recalls who gave Lucy her name. Johansen, ASU. The Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds played repeatedly. Sometime during that night, no one recalls exactly when or by whom the skeleton was named Lucy. We also learned directly from Johansen that the two were dating at the time, a revelation that shocks, as other accounts suggest Tom Gray was in fact Pam Alderman's boyfriend. Photographs of Tom Gray are rare, rendering him something of an enigma in the Lucy discovery story. One notable exception is a single photograph in Johansen's book Lucy, depicting Gray extracting an elephant cranium. Intriguingly, Tom Gray bears an uncanny resemblance to the late Bradley Delp, lead singer of the rock band Boston. Shadow over Hadar. Did Tom Gray stage the discovery? Alan Krill is a geologist from Norway. He is a visiting professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. In 2020, he gained some notoriety for a major find in Arizona. CNN, Fossil Footprints at Grand Canyon, 2020. A discovery made by a geology professor turned out to be a bigger deal than he could have imagined. What Krill stumbled upon were the oldest vertebrate fossil tracks ever found at Grand Canyon National Park, about 313 million years old. Krill, a self-proclaimed debunker of what he considers pseudoscience, made serious accusations about the Lucy discovery on April 20th, 2020 in the anthropology discussion group. Krill begins. Piltdown Man was a hoax. A knowledgeable trickster planted some bone fragments and then took eager experts to the place where they could personally help discover them. Continuing, I suspect that the same thing happened in the case of Lucy. An advanced degree student named Tom Gray, who knew bone anatomy and probably had access to fossil collections, led Donald Johansen directly to the place where the Lucy fossils were found lying on the ground. Gray had the reputation as the most skilled fossil handler on the team. He possessed both the expertise and opportunity to orchestrate such an event. Additionally, Johansen was directly overseeing Gray's doctorate, which underscores the close professional relationship between the two during this pivotal time. The Lucy discovery was shaped by the intricate web of relationships among team members. There were rumors of tensions between Johansen, Gray, and Alderman. Various accounts describe Johansen as particularly tense in the immediate aftermath of the discovery. Page 41, Kermit Pattison, The Fossil Men. At camp after the discovery, Maurice Taib watched his companion become terse and preoccupied. The turbulent aftermath of the Lucy discovery. Following the Lucy discovery, Johansen found himself at the center of several controversies. Notably, he and Tim White had a falling out with Mary Leakey over this disputed co-authorship of a paper. Leakey had disagreed with the pair's classification of Australopithecus afarensis as the earliest hominid. In 1974-75, Ethiopia was engulfed in a bloody civil war between the Marxist Derg, who had just overthrown Emperor Haile Selassie, and various separatist groups. There was mass starvation outside of the capital of Addis Ababa. According to Pattison, page 54, government officials were being lined up and shot. Some Afar members of the Johansen-Taib team and allies in the government were killed. Johansen, along with Tim White and Bill Kimball, faced a series of significant disagreements and legal disputes with the Ethiopian government regarding access to fossils and research permissions. Johansen had sparked a political furor that escalated into an international incident widely referred to as the grave robbing incident. Nature.com, Maurice Taib, 2006. Johansen had dug the femur of a modern Afar tribesman out of a rock-covered cairn in order to compare it with a fossilized hominid knee bone later determined to be Australopithecus afarensis. This got Johansen, White, and Kimball a 5-year ban from Ethiopia. They shifted their operations to Tanzania, Mary Leakey's territory, which further inflamed relations with the Leakeys. The French legacy with Lucy. Bienvenue à tous. Nous parlerons un peu français dans ce segment. French archaeologists played a pivotal role in the discovery of Lucy, contributing their expertise and collaboration in this groundbreaking find. Johansen was first invited to join the French team at Hadar at a cocktail party in Paris in 1973. Il a été invité pour la première fois à rejoindre l'équipe en 1973. And it was French archaeologist Maurice Taib who invited Johansen to take part in the expedition. Ensuite, son ami Maurice l'a invité à faire le voyage. Taleb, if you want to find fossils, you need to come to the Afar. Si vous voulez trouver des fossiles, vous devez venir en Éthiopie. The two became close friends, but years later they had a falling out. There were some suggestions of a personal rivalry and credit for the discovery not shared by Johansen. A feeling of jealousy, possessiveness, and suspicion persisted. Quote, Don has an ego. He wants to have the honor only for himself. End quote. Taib. Did Yves Coupon claim credit? The expedition that ultimately led to the discovery of Lucy was spearheaded by renowned French anthropologist Yves Coupon. With his extensive expertise and experience, Coupon played a pivotal role in coordinating the team's efforts and nurturing international collaboration throughout the project. Some authors and fellow anthropologists have referred to Coupon as the father of Lucy. This stems from his leadership role in the broader expedition. Yves Coupon discovered two Australopithecus aethiopicus fossils the prior year, though their significance was not immediately clear. The inside jacket of Yves Coupon's 2002 book, Human Origins, described him as a paleontologist and lecturer, stating, quote unquote, he discovered Lucy in 1973. Of note, the claim in the book jacket that Yves Coupon discovered Lucy may simply be a publisher's error. Johansen and his legacy. Don Johansen, now in the twilight of his remarkable life and career, remains active and engaged through lectures and interviews, continuing to inspire and educate new generation. He continues to be a strong advocate for environmental causes and wildlife conservation efforts for Africa. Johansen and Professor William Kimball went on to establish the Institute for Human Studies for Anthropological Research at Arizona State University. On the 50th anniversary of her discovery, Lucy stands as the most iconic paleoanthropological discovery in human history. French scientists, including geologist Maurice Taillet and renowned anthropologist Yves Coupon, were instrumental in Lucy's discovery and deserve credit for identifying her ancestor, Australopithecus aethiopicus. However, the record is clear. It was Johansen and Tom Gray who made the groundbreaking discovery of the iconic Lucy specimen, Australopithecus afarensis. Still, questions linger about that pivotal day of Lucy's discovery. Just how central was Tom Gray's role, and what became of him afterward? Thank you for watching. These videos are very difficult to produce. This video in particular took a lot of editing and research. So please show your support for the channel by subscribing and passing this video on to others. We'll see you soon.